Welcome to Everything Co-op, bringing you information on how cooperatives can help improve your quality of life. This show is being sponsored by the National Co-op Bank, NCB. The NCB is dedicated to strengthening communities nationwide for the delivery of banking and financial services for the nation's cooperatives, their members, and other socially responsible organizations. For more information on the power of community ownership, visit ncb.coop. That's ncb.coop. Now stay tuned for your host, Vernon Oakes.
Good morning, everybody. This is Vernon Oakes. Welcome to Everything Cooperative. This morning, we had the pleasure of talking to Christina Jennings from Shared Capital. She's been on the show before, and she's going to talk about what Shared Capital does, how it's been working with its clients in this COVID-19 pandemic. And we have Rachel Battles, which is one of the clients of Shared Capital. They're Happy Earth Cleaning in Minneapolis. And so, good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Great. It's great to have you on this morning. Let's start with you, Christina. What is Shared Capital? What do you all do?
Sure. So Shared Capital Cooperative is a community development financial institution, or CDFI. We're a loan fund, basically, that provides financing to cooperative businesses and housing cooperatives. So we work nationwide with small cooperatives that are either getting started or growing, and help them get the capital that they need to do their work. We are also cooperatively owned, so we're actually owned by those co-ops who we lend to.
So you are a co-op that loans to co-ops?
Correct. We're a co-op of co-ops that lends to the co-ops. Yeah.
So by definition, you really practice Principle 6, cooperation among co-ops.
Exactly. That is the basis for how we were formed. Exactly.
All right. And so can you tell us about one of your clients is Happy Earth Cleaning. So how did you first work with them?
So Happy Earth Cleaning is actually just last year, just at the end of the year, at the end of 2019, transitioned to being a worker-owned co-op. And they've been a successful green cleaning company, and the owners were exiting to head into other to move out of the area, and they decided they worked with their employees to have the employees actually purchase that business and turn it into a worker cooperative. We were working with them to provide the financing to the employees in order for them to purchase the business.
So it was converted from individuals owning it to employees owning and controlling it to a co-op.
Correct. Yeah. So they just the very end of December, they became a co-op. Exactly.
Right in time for the coronavirus. Great.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Rachel. Yeah. Good morning, Rachel. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about how many worker owners are in Happy Earth Cleaning? How was this whole transition from being an employee to an owner? How did it all happen and work for you?
Yeah, so we've got right now 16 employees. We've been kind of hovering anywhere between 15 and 20 employees, and we've got 5 worker owners right now. And the transition was kind of a long process. We started kind of thinking about becoming a co-op probably 3 or 4 years ago even, but just kind of didn't know where to start, really.
Okay.
And so we were actually able to take a class through the City of Minneapolis Business Technical Assistance Program. They offered kind of a class on how to become a co-op. And so that was a really good overview on how to get the process started. But after taking that class, we still had some questions. And we weren't even sure, as one of the potential worker owners, we were how are we going to pay for this? Do we each have to invest huge sums of money on our own? And so we still have some questions, but we got connected with Shared Capital and another group called Project Equity that really helped us out in the process of becoming a co-op.
So what was it like for you? Was it easy? Was it difficult? How was the training? Was it for you? Did it kind of it happened and then all of this information just flowed into your head? You go, wow, you had great moments. Or how was that for you?
It was, honestly, at first, it was kind of stressful and confusing because, like I said, we didn't really know exactly what we were doing or how to even go about finding the right resources to connect with. But once we took that class with the city and then got connected with Project Equity, it was really I don't know what we would have done without them. They were really able to kind of take our hand and lead us through the process of, all the different things that you need to do in order to convert. So after we got connected with them, it was really, really great.
Great. Okay. I like that word. And how long were you working with the business before you converted? And if I could, what kind of education background do you have, formal education?
Yeah. So I graduated from UW Eau Claire with a major in instrumental music and a minor in Japanese. So
really helpful here. I got it.
Didn't really expect to be, working for a cleaning company, but I really just kind of fell in love with the values that Happy Earth had as a company. And so I ended up working at Happy Earth for almost 5 years before we converted. Okay. I just stuck with it because it's such a great company to work for.
So the reason I asked those questions was because my experience in working with housing co-ops is that a lot of times people didn't even have a high school education, and they got the training either through something like Project Equity or here's housing counseling services. They get the training, and this fifth principle of cooperation is training information is what comes into play. So they get the just-in-time information. They get the knowledge they need to run a business. And one of the reasons it may take 3 or 4 years, or I've seen as much as 8 years to start a co-op is because of this training that has to take place. And once this training happens, what I have learned through a book called Collective Courage that Dr. Jessica Gordon-Nimhard said, that when a co-op starts, it may take longer, but in the first 5 years, 90% of them are still in existence. They're successful. Where the other groups, those capitalist ones that start with the capital kinds of co-ops, they start with 1-2 people getting started. They have an idea. They go down, they get incorporated, and in 5 years, 90% of them have failed. Only 10% are still in existence. But it's because of this training, this fifth principle, and working together and learning, and then getting the whole community behind you. So it's a great idea for the listeners out there. I didn't want education to be one of the things that stop you from wanting to start your co-op, because the training happens within this whole process, and the training has to happen, and there's a better chance of being successful with this training. So, Christina, what has your experience been? You've been working in this world, 20 years?
About 20 years. 20
years, about 20? So what's your experience with co-ops getting started and then the likelihood of success?
Yeah, and I worked for about the last 12 years just almost exclusively with co-ops. Before that, I worked with small businesses of all kinds and co-ops. And my experience is exactly as you said. Co-ops are extremely resilient and have really weathered some financial challenges. Doesn't mean it's easy, but I think that co-ops have the capacity. They tend to, I think the group decision-making process as well as the educational process means that things may move slower, but with intention and care. It's not just one person grabbing onto a crazy idea and moving it forward. They have to convince a whole group needs to make those decisions. And I think that seems to result in good decisions that have staying power, that have resilience over time, and the ability to make, really, I think, good decisions for the group as a whole. So like in a worker co-op, where what we're seeing is that the worker co-ops, as they're trying to weather this COVID crisis, they are really looking out for their members, of course, because that's the heart of who they are. They're looking out for the community. They're looking out for the best interests of their worker owners, all their employees. And not to say that there aren't other businesses who do that, but I think it is true that co-ops are really grounded there in thinking about their members and the community.
So is that right, Rachel? That's what you are looking at? Are you looking at trying to get money to the shareholders who are outside shareholders, and you trying to get money to them? Or are you trying to get, I guess, helping the member owners, the workers? What's your focus?
Yeah, we're definitely 100% about helping, just little community of employees and worker owners. So.
Yeah, I mean, this is the difference, right, for work with the worker co-op. Unlike some of the corporations you'll see who are going to do vast layoffs and cuts in order to make sure that they can deliver value to their external shareholders, co-ops are interested in doing the best by their employees, making sure their employees are getting food on their table in these times, which is not easy if you can't work. And I know that Happy Earth has been hard hit by COVID because they're a cleaning company. They go into people's homes, and that that is something that folks are not open to, and that frankly isn't good. Is dangerous for the employees, but also potentially dangerous for the customers. And so they've had to really pivot and figure out how to sustain themselves during this time.
Well, I thought you were just going to say that the worker co-op has no outside investors. It's each member is an owner, and there's one member, one vote, and democratically controlled. I think that's the second principle of co-ops. And so the focus of the stockholder, the focus of everything is for that community, as you said. You call it a little community, but 15 to 20 people is a relatively nice-sized community, 5 owners. So the decisions made by those owners is what's best for those 15 to 20 workers. How do we do this together? And that, to me, is why in 07, 08, worker co-ops came through, housing co-ops came through, credit unions. All of these different co-ops were better able to weather the storm because they're working together both before the storm happens and during the storm to be able to get through it and get on the other side. So great. That's one of the major benefits of co-ops. But that's not why I started liking them. I started liking co-ops because of that fifth principle, training, education, information. And then I liked it for this first principle. It is open to everybody, regardless of race, religion, politics, where you're from, what's your zip code, none of that. It's open for everybody. And then there's one member, one vote. Your voting is not based on how much money you have, how many shares you have, because you can only have one share. It's one member, one vote. Okay, so that's the background for co-ops and why they're so great. And Christina, for 20 years, you have seen this. You've witnessed this by loaning money to people. So is that what Shared Capital mainly does, is loan money to people?
Yeah, I'd say our main activity is making loans to co-ops. Along with that, we're also trying to provide information. As you said, education is a critical piece, and I think a lot of folks haven't had the privilege of having access to that capital, to those dollars. So one of our goals is to really help kind of bridge that information gap too, not just accessing the money, but making sure that co-ops have access to the information about where they can get the money, how they can use it, how they can use it effectively. So that training and technical assistance to the co-ops on those and connecting them with other resources. I mean, we see ourselves as we're a network of co-ops, and we're trying to connect our co-op members with the resources and tech education training. And we connect them with our own dollars, but we also try to, where appropriate, like during the COVID crisis, trying to make sure folks can access the SBA resources that became available to co-ops. And so working with our co-op members to make sure they were able to access the PPP program or the EIDL program to get the resources they needed.
Okay, we're going to take our first break. We'll be right back, and I'm really glad you got into the COVID. We're going to come back and talk about what you're doing during this crisis. We'll be right back. Please don't touch that dial.
Your news talk station.
Information is power. This is Vernon Oakes, and the program is Everything Cooperative. Welcome back. We have Christina Jennings from Shared Capital with us, and Rachel Battles, one of the clients of Shared Capital at Happy Earth Cleaning. And we talked about the first segment about Shared Capital loaning money, but also providing information, technical assistance, connecting their dollars to their clients and other folks' dollars. And this is why co-ops are very successful. And Rachel's talked about working for a cleaning company and their values, and then the employees buying it, converting it to a worker-owner cooperative. Okay, so let's go into this. I wanted to get there relatively quick. Is COVID. COVID-19 has really caused havoc to our economy. And Christina, you said that it's really hurt Happy Earth because they go into people's homes and clean them. I know I had a lady coming in every other week or so, and she hasn't been in 9 weeks. Well, it's caused me to. It's pretty clean in here. It's caused me to do that. Okay. And so you've lost some clients. So how has this been working for you? Well, first off, let's go with Christina. What kinds of services and how have you helped Rachel and Happy Earth Cleaning and other of your clients through this? What are the kinds of things that Shared Capital has done?
Yeah, I mean, I think as soon as the COVID pandemic was sort of unfolding, I think one of the things we realized was that a lot of the co-ops we work with were really anxious, as was everyone, right? We were all worrying about the impact. And so I think one of the first things we did was just reach out to all of our borrowers and let them know that they could have 2 months of no payments while we all figured out where this was going. And so we gave everyone who wanted it, and I'd say about a third of our borrowers, a third of the co-ops that are borrowing from us, requested no payments. So how much difference does that make? I don't know. I think a lot of that was for all of us to say, let's take a moment, let's pause, let's see where this is going and figure out what we all need to move forward. Wasn't intended to solve all of the financial problems caused by this, but to just give us all a moment to catch our breath and figure it out. So then we've also been extending that for businesses that are closed or significantly reduced in operations. We've been extending those that time frame for no payments, so just giving folks a break so that we can, and looking at ways that do we need to make changes to how the expectations of the repayment of the loan over time. What else do we need to do so that folks can, so our interest is in making sure these co-ops can stay successful, can survive this and be successful afterwards. And so what will it take
let me ask you a question.
Together? Yeah.
Christina, so you say to your clients, you say to all of them, you can have 2 months extension, but only a third of them took you up. So the other 2/3 didn't need it.
Kind of surprising, right? I was expecting it to be more like 80%, right? I think that's interesting. Some businesses are still, operating. Like we work with a lot of food co-ops, and they've been extremely busy. So that it hasn't been the no payment they've needed. They've needed sometimes other accommodations, but that's not the one they needed. So it depends on the situation of the business, where they were, what they're doing. But I think that's the reason. And that seems to be a number. I was talking with some of our peer loan funds. It sounds like that's kind of the numbers they're seeing too. About 30% to 40% of their business, of the co-ops they work with, are needing that immediate no payment, right? In addition to that, hold a minute. I want to digest this a little bit. So the first thing in this world of this ecosystem of co-ops is everybody's trying to see how to make the business successful. Yeah. Perhaps that's the first reason that cooperative businesses are successful, and 90% over 5 years or then longer, is because you, the borrower, the loan person, is trying to make sure that you do things to help them be successful and also not hurt you. That kind of what it is. Right. Our money comes from our co-op members, and so we have to make sure we have to do we have to do the best of balancing taking the risk that supports the co-ops to be successful that we're lending to, while also trying to ensure that those loans get repaid. So we're trying to make good loans that support the business's success. And if we do that right, then the co-ops we're supporting are successful, and our members get their money back at the end of the day. So that's, I think, that one of the good things about that cooperative financial structures that we have, and that I think the credit unions also have.
Fantastic. So did you do this extension 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, however long they need? You keep on expanding it based on need. Is that it show up at the end of the loan as a balloon payment, or which could also cripple you, or do you just lay it out longer? How do you restructure the loan?
Yeah, so we have some flexibility there, and so we're actually doing it on a case-by-case basis. In some cases, the loan was already set up so that there was a balloon payment that at the end of, say, it's a 5-year loan. At the end of that time, we're working with our borrowers to extend that loan again, in which case we're not adding months onto the loan right now. We'll be adding that on sort of in the next phase. In some cases, we are, then just adding months. So if you couldn't pay for 4 months, then we'll add 4 months on. So you'll just have 4 more payments. at the end of the loan. But we have a lot of flexibility, and that's what made us successful over time and helped our co-ops be successful, is that we have a lot of flexibility. We can look at maybe they aren't going to be able to go back to their full payment for a year. I don't know. Those are the flexibility we can work with the co-op to figure out what do they need to what are they going to. If they're not in our interest to force them to make payments they can't make, and so it's working with them to figure out what's the right amount. What can they do?
Fantastic. I wish I had you as a loan officer when I was borrowing money. That's not what I got. It's like, through 07, 08, it was hard. It was stressful because you didn't have the loan officer on the other end saying the same kind of thing. It was, I want my money now. I've got all of these penalties to add on to your loan. And go, wait a minute, we didn't cause this. And we're working through it. Help us. That didn't happen on the other end of the loan. We came through it okay, but it was struggle. It was really, really difficult. So then, I really wish I'd have had you guys on the other end of those loans to work through it, because that's tough. Rachel, so how was it for you working with Shared Capital and Christina and company going through this? Because you had loans, right? You had loans with them to help buy this out, and you only did it in December. So come March, you were in this crisis. Yeah, very short. Okay.
Yeah. And honestly, it's been so great being able to work with Shared Capital, and just their flexibility is just like life-saving. Like, I don't know. I don't know what we would do if we didn't have that kind of ability to work together with them.
Life-saving is probably a great way of saying it. And literally, that may be literally true, because some people under that kind of stress, all kinds of things happen under stress. Heart attacks. Some people go as far as jumping off bridges and stuff under that major stress, financial stress. So, yeah, I think life-saving is it, literally, not just figuratively. But minimizing that stress is huge. I meant it when I said I wish I'd have had Shared Capital or somebody like Shared Capital on the other end of the loans that I had and was both personally and business-wise responsible for, because they didn't come like that. And that's sad, because we did work through it. They got their money back, and they made a whole lot more money because of all of the interest and penalties, which it worked, but it was tough going through. Life-saving. I like that. Okay, Christina, you're a lifesaver. You're an essential worker.
Our team has worked hard, but we know that our co-ops we're working with are doing the really hard work. So, I think it's the least we can do to try and make sure we're there, trying to keep up with them, right?
So, yes. So the COVID shows up, and so somewhere February, end of January, February, March timeframe, you see this. Everybody is scared, concerned, and you get into action and you say, hey, you can have an extension. 2 months. You don't have to pay me for 2 months, and 1/3 of your clients took you on. What are other kinds of things? That's emergency help right now. What are other things that Shared Capital did?
Yeah, so the other things we did is we ended up rolling out while we were all waiting to see what kind of assistance that the government would roll out, we decided there really wasn't time to wait, and so we rolled out an emergency loan program for co-ops. We worked with both our existing borrowers who needed cash immediately to move forward, and also with the co-ops who hadn't been members or borrowers of ours before. Because we were seeing businesses that were just needing to get cash in hand to manage immediate bills, and PPP hadn't been announced, the Paycheck Protection Program and the other SBA programs hadn't yet been announced. So we rolled that out, and our board, we worked with our board of directors who are elected by our co-op members. We worked with them to get an expedited approval process, and our loan officers, our staff, and we have a small staff, they worked hard we wanted to turn around decisions within a few days. The board gave the staff authority to approve those loans. Usually we'd have to take our loans to our loan committee, and our loan committee has to make those approvals. Instead, we all agreed on the parameters, and we're able to roll out so an expedited approval process that lets staff dig in and make the decisions and report to our loan committee.
Phenomenal. So you're in front of all of this, and we're going to take our second break now, and we'll come back and talk more about this because I want to hear what it's like for Rachel on the other end when you roll this out, and perhaps other clients, you can get this emergency loan and you can get the money quickly, which is phenomenal what your board is doing. We'll be right back, everybody, and we'd ask you not to touch that dial. And if you have any questions, call 1-800-450-7876. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. This is Vernon Oakes, and the program is Everything Cooperative. This program is brought to you by the National Cooperative Bank for the last 6.5 years. Christina, can you believe it? We've been on for 6.5 years. We were only going to be on for 1 month, and it just sort of, people like it, and I love it. So we've been talking co-op. And speaking of talking co-op, when Cuomo, governor of New York, gets on and says we have to be community and mutuality, and I see all of these commercials saying working together. We have to be together. I'm going, you all are talking the co-op language. This is the core values of co-ops is togetherness. This what is best for the group. You've already talked about it, Christina, is that when a co-op has a problem, or even when they don't have a problem, the issue at hand is what to do with the profits. And the question becomes what's best for the group. That's the core values of openness, honesty, social responsibility, and caring for one another. That's what it means to be a cooperative, and that's why they are successful. So, Christina, before we took break, you were saying, I've gotten that you all saw this coming, and you told right away your people, you can have your clients, you can have 2 months where you don't have to pay. 1/3 of your clients took you up on that. And then you came in with emergency loans. You went to your board. You got approval where your loan officers, these people processing, could make decisions with this criteria. I assume that you all talked about them internal, but you didn't have to take it back to the board. You get these approvals. How many of these emergency loans do you think you made, and what's the response back? And when you answer that, then I want to go to Rachel to see if they got one.
Yeah, we actually ended up we've made less than a dozen so far, which is maybe surprising, but also the SBA rolled out its programs, and so we were able to help connect folks with those resources rather than just trying to, frankly, we were carving this money out of, we didn't have additional funds available for this, so we were trying to carve it out of our existing pool of loan funds, and so it was limited. But we've done less than a dozen, but a number of important loans.
Well, I would think, because Rachel has already said that for those dozen, it's life-saving. It's critical. Okay. So, Chris, did you all make an emergency loan, Rachel?
Yeah, we applied as soon as we possibly could, just because we knew that we were in that spot of needing those funds right away. We weren't even sure right away when this whole thing started that whether or not our employees would be able to access unemployment if we needed to furlough people or reduce their hours. So our number one priority was making sure that our employees were able to get food on the table somehow. Mm-hmm. And so we reached out to Shared Capital right away, and they were able to make us an emergency loan, which has been amazing because we've since applied for, the PPP and other government resources, but we're still kind of waiting on applications to be processed. So I'm really, really glad that we were able to get those funds right away from Shared Capital.
Great news. Okay, Christina, my heart is wide open for what you guys do. It's great. I guess, what has the other feedback that you've gotten, Christina, from your other clients for the work that you've done in putting the loans they don't have to pay back right away and this emergency loan fund? What's the feedback from your clients?
Yeah, and I think we've gotten, I think it's been really essential, as it has been for Happy Earth, that for a lot of businesses, just being able to put those payments on hold, being able to potentially access some additional cash to just get some of the critical bills paid, make sure health insurance is being paid for their employees, so they can continue that, making sure that if they weren't able to renegotiate their rent, although we've been working with our borrowers to try to renegotiate their lease payments on their space and things like that will help them weather it. The goal isn't to push the problem off onto the economic problems off onto other people, but to try and figure out ways for us all to sort of share the pain and to survive so that we can come out the other end and continue working. So, it's working with landlords, it's working with others. And so I think what we've heard is that for the folks that we've tried to make emergency loans where we knew that before the COVID crisis, the business would have been able to repay that loan, right? So we don't want to saddle debt. Debt isn't the right solution if the business wouldn't have been able to repay that. And then none of us know exactly how this will play out. So there's a fair amount of risk in this for all of us. But I think trying to do the right thing to make sure that those businesses that were already in a good position, like Happy Earth was, they have a great business that's on hold. So how do we help them kind of weather this time to make it through and keep their employees with them and all of that?
And keep the employees fed. I like that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So you've got the extension, the emergency loans. What else? What other things have you provided on the technical side? I said you're working with them to get their leases renegotiated in some kind of way, in any kind of way, to share this burden with everybody involved. So what are the other kinds of things you've done particularly within this group of that you belong to, the credit unions, the other CDILs, is that right?
CDFIs.
NCB?
Yeah.
CDFIs, right. So what are the kinds of things that you've done?
Yeah, there's a number of things. I think we've been, as the SBA programs have rolled out, and we were so thrilled that there's a lot of hard work done to make sure that co-ops were included in those SBA programs, that access for co-ops was included, and that was really important and hard work that I know a number of our colleagues did in Washington to make sure that happened. So I want to give a shout out.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to the NCBA and NCB. They seem to have been very much in there, and the U.S. Federation of Worker Co-ops. So it seemed like there was a lot of people pushing to make sure that co-ops was included in this first go around and throughout this whole process. So I just want to shout out to them and give them their props.
Exactly. Thank you. I agree that was essential and really groundbreaking. So. They did great work, and that meant that then our next step was to make sure that our co-ops are being able to access that. So we've been hosting virtual office hours to make sure that folks have questions about as they were trying to apply. We were thrilled that National Co-op Bank opened up so a lot of big banks were saying we'll only work with our existing loan customers or maybe our account holders. But that left a lot of our co-ops out without access to some of these programs because the banks weren't working with them. And what National Co-op Bank did was open up to make it available to the Check Protection Program available to any co-op. And so we were in active conversation with them to make sure that we could refer our co-op members and other co-ops that contacted us to NCB. And if there were questions, make sure we could assist them in getting NCB did a fabulous job of just processing those loan requests quickly and efficiently, and with thoughtfulness and care. A lot of the co-ops we work with who went to other banks, unfortunately. Now, in some cases that worked out well, but in a lot of cases we're seeing banks not responding. And so, as Rachel indicated, sometimes you're not hearing back. You don't know if your application even was received or whether you'll ever hear back on these loans. And NCB, the National Co-op Bank, really did a great job of bucking that and doing it the right way, which is communication. So trying to help folks access those resources, helping provide technical assistance to the co-ops to get those applications in, because sometimes the information requested was really confusing. And also so connecting with our staff or with other resources around that. We've done some trainings virtually to talk about how co-ops can respond to this crisis, and tried to make us. There's a lot of great resources being produced out there, making sure our members have access to those as well.
So I just want to. John Holzclaw was on the show last week, and he said that NCB processed 247 loans, and on his side for the bank side, it was a very smooth process. They probably got with their board and their loan committee and made that process to where it worked for people, and the communications was there. And I'm glad to hear it from your side of it, that you saw in your clients that they processed these loans, and it didn't happen with all banks. And that's been the problem, that with all of these loans is those banks are only looking after their clients and maybe their big clients or whatever. But yeah, smaller guys, no. So yeah, NCB
and Vernon, I would piggyback on that to say, just to hold the NCB up as a great example of how it should have been done. I know that they made everything from tiny loans. I think the number I heard was something like they made loans from $2,500 on up. There were a lot of banks that wouldn't process those small loans. So they were making sure no matter what your size, what your need was, that you could get access to it. And I know that when I was when we were working with them through this process, we were hearing from their loan officers on Saturday nights and Sunday mornings, and they were working around the clock. And I got to give them credit because they knew that their members and the borrowers were working around the clock to try and survive this, and they were doing the same.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So, Rachel, what has your experience been in processing the loans and getting the help you need? And I really want to get to where you are right now with your 15 to 20 employees, and are they eating? Do you have any work? And so how was that process, and where are you now?
Yeah, it's been kind of... Well, it's just been a long time. So we've been shut down for, I think, 8 weeks in total now. We actually just found out that we'll be able to reopen on Monday with social distancing protocols in place, which is really great.
Okay.
But right now, all of our employees are furloughed, and we were able to get access to unemployment. So everybody has been able to eat and take care of all their bills and stuff. So that's been a huge relief because it took a while for everyone to be able to get their unemployment applications processed, and because there were just record numbers of people applying and so much confusion. I had one employee who tried to call, I think, 47 times in one day. And, it was just kind of a really struggle to get everyone able to access those resources. So the loan from Shared Capital was really, really important in helping us pay our employees for the first 2 weeks that we were shut down, so that we could get everyone onto the unemployment.
So here, what I've got so far is your employees were able to get on unemployment. It took a while, and it took some effort and some push, and Shared Capital to help you with this emergency loan to pay employees for 2 weeks. They also help with the technical support of here's the kinds of things you need to do. Okay, so your people got paid and they're eating. That's great, and they're paying their bills. What about your business? Were you able to pay for your leases and your bill, all of the bills for the company?
Yeah, we've been able to, especially with the help from Shared Capital, for us being able to defer our existing loan payments. That really helped us out too. We were able to talk to our landlord and get a little bit of a delay in our rent payments. We still weren't able to completely negotiate that, but
and he or she has bills too. So yeah, it's this whole how you share it. I got it. Okay, keep going.
And so we're doing okay. Another thing we've been able to do is actually we've opened up a web store, and we're now selling cleaning kits on our website. So that's kind of a new branch out opportunity for us. We've never sold product before. We're usually just, doing actual cleaning, but we've been able to sell some kits through our website, which has really helped us pay the bills too.
All right. I want to get your website when we come back from our next break. I want to get Shared Capital's website. And I want to we're talking about what it's like now. And I want to get into this last segment to talk about what is it going to look like on the other end of this. That may be 12 months, 18 months down the road. We don't know how long it's going to be. But what are the kinds of things you can look for coming out of this and we can learn from this? We'll be right back. Please don't touch that dial.
Your news talk station.
Information is power. National Cooperative Bank is the sponsor of this program, had been since the start. And like Christina was talking about, Shared Capital helps their clients by providing monies, but also technical support and information. And NCB has done that for us. They've not only helped with the financing of this radio show, but they've helped with, really helping us to figure out who we could have on the show, what are the kinds of things that we can talk about. And just like when John Holtzclaw was on last week, and Chuck is going to be on the last week of this month, Chuck Snyder, the president. And their mission is to support and be an advocate for America's cooperatives and their members, especially in low-income communities, but providing the kinds of services we've been talking about and being very helpful, these 247 loans, but also the technical support. And whether it's a $2,500 loan or $2,500,000 loan, I don't know what the math was. I just made that number up. But the loan size doesn't make any difference. It's helping members and cooperatives throughout the U.S. and in some cases in the world. So what we said we want to talk about, I've got a sense of where you are now. Shared Capital came in right away, got active, fantastic, and your people have not worked for 8 weeks, and you have, Rachel, you all can start work on Monday. You don't know what that's going to look like because your clients may not want you to come back in their houses, and you've got to probably tell them on your website and through communications, this is what we can do. And so what are the kinds of things that you can do to relieve me that you can come in my home and not bring in coronavirus? What are the kinds of things that you are going to do?
Yeah, we've got a whole list of things that we're changing. We already had, a lot of sanitizing protocol in place already before coronavirus happened, just to reduce cross-contamination between customer homes. We always sanitize our vacuum attachments and our scrub brushes and stuff like that with hydrogen peroxide, but we're going to up the frequency of that sanitizing and use eco-friendly products inside customer homes to kind of sanitize frequently touched surfaces. Another thing that we're doing is requiring all employees to wear masks all the time. And we're also providing those masks and providing gloves, encouraging hand washing, and also requiring social distance, which I'm not sure exactly how that's going to play out. Sometimes it can be kind of hard. One thing that we've discussed is, our employees usually drive together in a vehicle, to appointments, and we've been discussing, do we drive in two separate vehicles to allow that distance between our employees? And so, but that also increases our environmental impact a little bit too if we're driving two cars. So that's kind of.
Well, I was thinking about the social distances in the house, that if somebody came in my home, that there's always 6 feet away, that we're not any closer. And I find that people, and sometimes me too, is I forget. And I see this when I go into stores, and I've got to tell people, get back. I mean, they may be 2 or 3 feet and not 6 feet because they're looking to pick up something or something else, and they're not conscious of being really conscious and aware of it.
So that one thing that we're considering, too, is asking customers potentially to, stay in one room or in one floor of the house that maybe we're not going to clean. Or
Okay.
maybe if they're able to, maybe go on a walk while we're cleaning if it's a short appointment or something like that, just to kind of help keep that distance.
So what's your webpage if I want to buy a kit?
Oh, it's happyearthcleaning.com.
happyearthcleaning.com. So we could go on and see what you all have to offer.
There's a link right on their front page.
There's a link on your front. Okay. Christina, what's your webpage?
Our webpage is sharedcapital.coop, COOP. So shared, the word shared, and the word capital all together, .coop.
Okay, so SHARED, then CAPITAL.coop.
Correct.
To get information. And of course for NCB is ncb.coop. For this radio show is everything.coop to get any information. Okay, so I'm going to be looking up Happy Earth Cleaning to see what your kits are about, to see, since I'm doing this cleaning now, to get some green friendly. What is green friendly stuff anyway?
Well, we use like a plant-based concentrated soap, and we use vinegar and hydrogen peroxide. Those are all things that are eco-friendly and also good at sanitizing and cleaning. So,
okay, all right. So
our kits look pretty cool. I want one too.
Okay, you've been online to look at it? Okay. Well, I give you permission to order it, Christina. You can order one now, right after the show's over. Okay. So, Christina, so you were really Johnny on the spot in here. Okay, this thing is coming down. We don't know what it's going to look like, but let's start moving. Let's give people 2 months that they don't have to pay. And fortunately, only a third of your people needed it, which is also great that people don't just come and try to get over. Most of the people said, we can pay and we will pay. And some of them said, food co-ops, we might need something else. We might need a cash flow loan because we have to order more food than we normally have to order to process all it. So there's other stuff and you work with them. So now we're in May. People are coming back to work and all kinds of things are happening. What do you see on the other end? What is the role of the co-ops? What's the role of Shared Capital on the other end of this?
And I think there's just a lot of economic uncertainty for the co-ops that we work with. And so where this is going to go, what kind of economic impact, what kind of recession. There's a lot of talk about recession and how serious that will be and how long it will be. And so I think now, in some ways, now the hard work for all of us begins. Like we've come through this crisis, but now we all have to dig in and figure out where this goes. We see how much clients come back for house cleaning, not just because of COVID, but because what's their economic situation and what happens for the grocery stores that have really been on the front line of providing food to the communities. What happens to all these workers who have been either having to wait or having to continue to work through this. So I think for us, it's now a process of really trying to make sure that as we see co-ops that are pivoting about what services or products they provide. I think Happy Earth is a great example of what could they provide now and what will be needed in the coming months. And we see that with other co-ops. We're getting loan requests from co-ops that are looking at the shifts in their business model to try and respond to this. So I think now it's an opportunity for creativity and to really try and find the next phase. But I think there's also this enormous opportunity. As you said, Vernon, this crisis certainly has pointed to the need or the importance of the cooperative values. And so how do we keep bringing those to the front of the economy? Because I think if we can't make that case now, then we probably never can. Like there's a need for co-ops. Co-ops are part of the solution to both the pandemic crisis, but also the economic crisis that's resulting from it, and repairing some of the inequities and injustices that we've all seen emerge even more starkly during this time. I mean, they were there, but now they've been laid there for us all to see.
Well, one of the reasons that I like co-ops, I've said it because they're open to everybody, but these inequities of being African American, and Rachel, you don't know this, but I'm 72 years old. So growing up in the 50s and the 60s, I saw discrimination firsthand growing up in West Virginia. And this wealth inequalities. Whites have average wealth of $171,000. The white family, where a black family has $17,000. If there's a black woman head of household, a negative $6 net worth. So these inequalities really go down to health outcomes. And this coronavirus has pulled the sheet up, and we see all of these poor health, and people die. Either to get so now, this new norm. Co-ops have a tremendous ability. We have to get out and change. I don't want to go back to the old norm. Don't want to go back at all. I want to see how can we then take this and do more. How can you get from 15 employees, Rachel, to 50 employees, or branch out to where you have in Minnesota, and then you will go over and you have something else in Wisconsin, another one and another one and another one, and branch out so that more and more people can have control over their life. That's what I'm really looking forward to seeing. What do you think, Christina?
Yeah. Well, and I would just say I want to let Rachel talk about what they do, but I want to highlight a couple of things about them. I mean, they're in the cleaning business. The cleaning business is not known as a business that's highly profitable for their employer. That pays high for the employees, and they've done an amazing job of providing good pay and benefits to their employees and a really dignified workplace. So I want to let if Rachel can add anything.
We only have a minute, Rachel, so you can have it, but you got to tell us real quick. What do you want to leave people with?
I just think it's been really great to work at Happy Earth in such a great community, and just so glad to work together even through this crisis, just managing it together with my fellow worker owners. There's no way I could have done it by myself. So I'm just really glad to have this co-op community.
Thank you. That's the last word. Everybody out there, I want to thank Christina and Rachel for being on the show with us today. Please have a wonderful week and live cooperatively. Thank you.